everybody, good morning. This is Jean here, Jean Truelove from Truelove Quilts for You. I hope you've had a lovely weekend. We did. We were over at the other house that is being raised up in the air. That was exciting. Ian saw it for the first time and oh my word, it took our breath away. It really is wonderful. But I texted. But I texted our son who owns the house and he was saying, oh my goodness, it's a little bit daunting. But I'm like, if anybody can do it, you got this, you got this. He goes, yeah, our vision will come to fruition as far as finishing the property over there. A couple people have asked if we are going to be moving back to the home that was ruined and that was razed. We lost our previous home in a hurricane. We're not. We are settled into this lovely home now. We're very happy. We're very happy to be here. Our son will either be keeping it and renting it out or selling it. The property is just beautiful. So that's where we've been. Maxwell is okay. He's just upstairs. I have been working on my One Block Wonder, my Kaleidoscope quilt. And as you know, I was saying in the very beginning, this is not a short process. Is it for a beginner? Perhaps not. Because it could be confusing, but I am not finding it hard at this point. It's just, as I was saying, step by step. You really have to stay very, very focused and organized, that's all, or else you could get confused with the kaleidoscope blocks. My last video, again, I have a playlist if you want to go check how I got to this point. My last video was, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to put it in my panel in the middle, blah, blah, blah. I didn't do that. In fact, I got a few suggestions, as I say in my next little bit of video, from people who said, put my panel to the left-hand side and have the blocks sort of exploding off to the right, which I have done. I messed about with it. I had it down the bottom, I had it at the top, I had it in the middle, and I quite like visually what pattern I've come up with. My quilt is going to be very small. It's going to be a small quilt that I will have to, and I will explain that to you, I will have to trim off some of the triangles on the top and on the bottom of my quilt because they are a hexagon or like a puzzle, and you are going to be having triangles sticking up the way that they say to do this. At this point, I'm only going to be showing you my placement and how I'm starting to sew my rows together. I think I have my head wrapped around the method. Now, when it comes to actually putting them onto the panel, that'll be for the next video. I think I'll be able to figure it out, and hopefully I'll be able to explain it along the way to you guys. But this is how far I've gotten. I have to tell you, Jen, my friend Jen, if you remember, oh wait, when was it? We were having a cup of tea ages ago, and I was showing her, this months ago, I was showing her my little triangular ruler. This is my ruler that I was using, and I just did 3-inch strips and 3-inch triangles to make my hexagon block. Jen pulled out her very large panel. My panel's only small. Jen pulled out this massive panel and a triangular ruler, which was like 8 inches, 8 or 9 inches. Well, I have to laugh because at the time I thought every video that I've seen, every tutorial on YouTube that I've seen, is they're cutting their triangles at, you know, 3, 2.5, 3, 2 3/4, 4 inches, 4.5 to make a decent sized block. Jen cut her strips that wide and her triangles that big. So her blocks ended up massive around her quilt. Well, she ended up with 30 blocks. I ended up with 42, if you remember. And her quilt, I said, Jen, your quilt could cover the Empire State Building. It was so massively huge. So I'm going to be having Jen in the next video or so, or in the next couple videos, to show you her progress and what she has done with her huge, massive, great big kaleidoscope quilt. I have not seen it yet, but we did have a laugh about it because I'm like, you made this massive quilt. I made a little tiny one. Again, people said, well, what size is your quilt? I'm like, I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue how it's going to end up, but it'll end up pretty. So I hope you like the way I've placed my things. I think I messed about with it for quite a while. Ad nauseum. I thought, I want to be done. Not really. I've enjoyed this, but as I said, it's not a quick project whatsoever. But it's going to be pretty, and I'm probably going to be hanging it right here. I have my Hoffman watercolor palette panel that I just hung up over here, but I'm probably going to be hanging it pride of place in my little sewing room on my yellow walls. Our whole house has yellow walls, and that's why I chose this lovely panel. It's so pretty with the yellow. So I do hope you enjoy it. Again, check my playlist to see how I got to this point now. And again, folks, thank you so very much. I hope you enjoy this video. It's been fun. All right, see ya. Bye. So if you remember from my last video, that this was up on my little design wall, which is a flannel black tablecloth. This was what I was working with. I've taken it off to show you exactly how I'm going to be constructing this. I had shown you in my last video how I thought I was going to putting this in the middle, and then my blocks, my half hexagon blocks around it. This was my central panel. If you're new here, there is a playlist on how I'm making this One Block Wonder Kaleidoscope quilt. This is just a very quick recap. This is my central panel, which I cut into triangles with my template, my ruler, and then I have sewn my 3 triangles and my 3 triangles to make one hexagon block. You can watch my playlists. These are the blocks that I have come up with, and as you can see, I've sort of whether I'm going to be using them like this, it depends on my placement, but I have sort of taken the yellows of the sunflowers, the bright colors of her costume, the blues of the sky, and then all of this wildflower, the creams and the greens I've put into those blocks. Now I'm going to go over to my design wall and actually place my panel where I want it. I may or may not use the rickrack like I said in my last video. I'm going to be playing around with that, and that's the beauty of this quilt project. And whatever size your panel is where you're going to be placing it. It could be at the top, it could be at the middle, it could be at the side, it could be at the bottom, and then your blocks around it. And now this video, I'm hoping to show you how I'm actually going to place my blocks in the lines, in the rows, how we're going to place them, to sew them in rows around my panel. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to show you my final design for my quilt. As you can see from what I'm working on right now with my quilt, which is just a small wall hanging, I have changed up my design. I have actually put, on suggestion from several of you people, thank you so much, to put my panel, my whole panel, in the top left-hand corner of my design. Okay, this is just going to be a small wall hanging. I'm dictated by my small panel and my small blocks. Now what I'm doing is I'm sort of mirror imaging my blocks visually as, you know, the sky. There's one row here. Don't worry about that. I'm going to explain that in a moment. Just of the ribbon in the sky, and then her top and the sunflowers and her costume, her red hair is coming over here. Now my quilt, as you can see, there's the triangles up here. You're saying, what in the world? The top of my quilt is going to be here. I'm going to be either putting a small border or binding it at that point. So these rows of blocks, which are joggled in order to get the hexagon shape, are going to be trimmed off. Just that top row there. Okay? Now, as you can see, because the rows are joggled, we are sewing this in rows only. Even though we have all of these fabulous, intricate hexagon shapes, we are sewing this. Hopefully you can understand that this is going to be sewn into this one, which is going to be sewn here, which is going to be sewn here. But you're saying, well, where in the world are these? Why are these empty? That's where I come over here. I've placed my whole blocks as visually as I like them, okay? I quite like that right now. It's a little bit joggled, so stay with me. But I have some extra blocks here. Now this one, obviously, this here, obviously sort of goes here, and to my mind, a little bit up here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, so I'm going to put my camera down and I'm going to take these apart. I can only do this with one hand. I'm going to place this one here like that. Hopefully that, oops, like that. That one sticks there. Oops, I dropped it. Oh, excuse me. And then I'm going to place the other half of it. As you can see, I have the other half. I'm going to place that down here. So we are going to be on some of these. So you can see that I filled that in. Now I quite like that. We are going to be on some of these having to do half blocks. Now I'm coming back and I'm thinking, no, I don't love that. I want a little bit more color here. So what I've done is I've split these two, this hexagon, and I'm taking this bit of yellow because I like this bit of yellow here, and I'm going to replace that one with this bit of yellow. Yes, I like that. And again, oh, excuse me, my camera's joggling all over the place. I'm going to be putting the other half right there and filling that in. So this is where, oh, I quite like that. So this is where you can mess about with it. Okay, I have the light area here, which to my mind, as I always say, the white and the cream and this provides me with some visual relief. And then the darker of her feet and her legs. Now I do have some blue down here, but that's okay because it's almost like a bit of water. It could be a little bit of water. But again, I'm only going to be having one row on this side. So here's this block here that I'm taking that edge off, and I'm going to be placing that, I don't know where, maybe down here, let me see, maybe down here somewhere. But to my mind, I see both that and that. So I will just play with this a little bit and maybe have a half, maybe just have a half block over here somewhere. Now again, we have some extra, I'll just put that there for a moment. We have these extra blocks here, okay? I'm going to be taking off these half hexagons, and I'm going to be placing them in a pleasing fashion. Hopefully you can see that around my quilt. And then what I will be doing is I will be concentrating on the panel and these blocks here. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but half, several of them are half. I'm going to be concentrating on adding those rows there, and then I'll be sewing that unit to the bottom of my panel. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. And then I will finish this row here, this vertical row here, and I will be sewing that row to the side of my quilt. Again, hopefully that makes sense. Again, I will be trimming off, I'm not going to be doing it now, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be trimming off the top rows. But right now, I'm not going to do it on camera, but right now, I'm just going to mess about with my little blocks here, my little hexagons. Oh, I think it's so pretty. I may want a little bit of more color in here or not as much color over here, but this is the beauty of this pattern. So as long as you can understand the construction of it, these rows here, this row here is going to be, we're going to lose this point there, okay, to make it straight. This, here's a half, this is our seam, this is our seam, this is our seam. If you understand that. So all we're doing is sewing in rows. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be leaving this on my design wall here, coming back to it, having taken off my rows, pinning them together like they are meant to be, like they're meant to be in that one row. I'm just going to concentrate on this one row. I'm going to do this one first. These blocks here, making sure I have enough half blocks and whole blocks. Then I'll be concentrating on that row. Hopefully they'll match up. I think they'll match up. And if not, then we can just jiggery pokery it a little bit. I don't know. That's what I'll do. And then I don't know if I'm gonna, I've said before, I don't know if I'm gonna do it with rickrack around it, because I see a straight line where my panel is. I'm not quite sure what I'll do, but right now I really quite like that. I might put some, as I'm looking at through the viewfinder, I might put some of these very pale blocks up here with the white, so I don't have that definitive line right there. Hopefully you can understand that. But I will come back, I'll go over to my machine and I'll show you how I'm actually sewing the rows together. But what do you think? Oh, I think it's so pretty. Yeah, I think it's so pretty. I like it. I like it. Thank you so very much, the people who suggested that I put the panel in the corner. I was going to do it in the middle, but to me it makes a lot more sense. It's so pretty. All right, folks, I'll be right back. So what I have here are the first 3 blocks, as it were, that are underneath my panel on the left-hand side of my wall hanging. Now, as you can see, I have a matching set of hexagons, and this one is odd. That was an odd one to fill in. The next row that I'm going to be sewing will have this one, which will match this hexagon, and then a full hexagon down here. So I've already sewn these 3 half blocks together in a row. All right, I will be attaching, trimming off the top triangle and attaching them to the square bottom of the panel, but we'll come to that. Okay, so we will be losing a little bit of the pattern, but it will be even all the way across to make up for the rectangular panel. So what I've done is I've already sewn these blocks together here, and as you can see, I have pressed open every single 1/4 inch seam. Again, very important that you sew these at a 1/4 inch, okay? But now I'm going to show you, I took them off my design wall just like this. I sort of put them, this was how they were up vertically, so I then took them apart and just with a pin, I put them together like that, how I want them to be sewn. So I'll put this over to the side. Now this one, I've taken that pin out. What you want to do is, the seam is going this way, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this pretty side over to this pretty side over. I know that that will make the seam, but it's going to be offset, okay? Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be stitching with a 1/4 inch over the seam, okay? Over that. We don't want to put it equal like that. We don't want to sew it like that, because if we sewed it like that, when we go to turn it, it's going to be a joggled seam. You're going to have this out here, and you're going to have this in here. So what we're going to do, pretty side to pretty side, you're going to put the 1/4 inch up at the top, near that dog ear. I have not trimmed off that dog ear there, okay? And I'm going to start sewing on that 1/4 inch right there. Put my needle down, my presser foot there, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 of an inch. Oh, what in the world? Something's wrong with my presser foot. Oh, there we go. Oh, something's wrong with my machine. Oh, come on, what the heck? Something's wrong with, oh, there we go. Oh, my machine's a little messed up. Anyway, so there how I've sewn that 1/4 of an inch seam. Excuse me for all that palaver there. And then when I go to open it up, that's it was a little bit wonky because I got a little nervous. That's almost straight. I can just trim that off just slightly, but it's almost straight. And I'll try to do this one. My machine was acting up a bit. So this next seam here, I'm going to put it over, and it's funky because we're all of a sudden it's this way. But just keep checking yourself. Remember that the seam goes here, and you always want the dog ear, that 1/4 inch, to hang over. Okay, you want that 1/4 inch to hang over there. So I'm going to start up here, and if you've sewn it good at the 1/4 of an inch, it should go right into that intersection right there. Pinch and pull your threads, and then there, that one's pretty perfect. You see that seam right there. So you have the 1/4 inch there and a 1/4 inch there. It wasn't wonderful up there. So I'll just trim that a little bit. But there is my second row. And when I go to iron that, the kaleidoscopes are here. This is different, but that's okay because it's the nature of the quilt. And this kaleidoscope is here. Then when we go to sew this together, as you can see, I have a little, well, not quite a 1/4 inch, but a 1/4 inch there. I'll just put these rows together, and those intersections will come together. If they don't come together perfectly, I'm not bothered about it because it's just an explosion of color. So if you're if you're perfectionist, it'll make a big difference. But I'm not. But I know when I go to sew these together, after I press all of these seams open, that row there is going to go together beautifully. And then I can add my other rows just underneath my panel, and then I'll attach them to my panel. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this right now because this is going to be a process. And then I will come back in the next video, my 3.25. This is video 3, part 3. And I'm show you how far I've gotten. But I hope that makes sense as far as placing the blocks and arranging them on our design wall, and then how we're sewing them together. How we put it together at the end of the day, well, that's to come, folks, and I hope I don't mess it up. All right, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this part so far, and yeah, we will see you later. All right, love from the Trueloves. Bye-bye.